HR Pfizer, and I would be helping moderate this session today. Now, you might be thinking, why? Why are we all here? But, think about today. Burnout, mental health, and wellness concern are far from over. In the race to survive and thrive in the evolving business environment, how do HR leaders ensure that the cost of business growth is not on the employee health and well being? It's time to invest in the holistic growth of each individual and enhance stress coping ability and resilience workplace behavior. Let's explore how organizations can ensure organization resilience and well being with so many initiatives, fewer resources, and an overstretched team. Now, with that context, let me begin, Nupur, with you. I know, and we all see that Nupur, you have recently joined Myntra. What's your biggest challenge that you feel you have today, in your organization when it comes to the well-being concerns in your organization?
Thanks, Megha. First of all, it's a privilege to be here and talk on this topic because this is something I'm really, really passionate about and something trying to solve, nowhere close to it, but trying to figure out how can break the ice on this particular area for the organization. Some things that I truly believe that's happening in this space. First of all, work has entered homes of people. Given the pandemic fatigue and what we were working from home in the last 2 years, work is in everybody's house. It has invaded your private space, it has invaded the hours. There's nothing called office hours and there's nothing called personal hours. So everybody has to now find a harmony of what is my personal hour and what is office hours, and there's no boundary around it. So finding that space where I'm satisfied, I'm able to thrive professionally and personally, having a flexibility to achieve a balance is what is going to be a state of well-being. And that can not be just defined by physical well-being, mental well-being, or emotional well-being. It is overall well-being for me. Overall well-being would mean if I'm satisfied with my whole life at this point in time in terms of being able to meet some of my professional goals, meet some of my personal goals. There's never going to be a state where I'm going to meet all of them. And if I am able to, then I'm in a perfectly nirvana state, I would say. But if I'm able to meet and balance some of those is what, when I can bring my whole self to either work or in my personal space. So achieving that is the balance that would try and achieve in an organization. That's what I would say is a well-being that I would aim to achieve in Myntra for employees. And that's what I think organizations should aim for from a well-being definition perspective. So when I say well-being, I would focus on 2, 3 things. One, it's not anymore an investment. It's not about one initiative that an organization does. It's a skill now. It's a skill that is required for an organization to invest in, and it's something that you have to build over a period of time. If this skill is not invested in now, you will continue to have people who you will keep hiring, who will keep leaving you for a mirage that they might be chasing, or for an organization that may show them a roadmap or a path where they can find an environment where they can thrive personally and professionally. So that for me is a state of well-being and striving that balance for individuals in a work environment. And it could be different things for different people. For some, it may be mental well-being. So for some, it may be whether I'm able to find time to mindfully do my work, whether I'm able to find time to spend time with my child, or whether I'm able to find time to do my yoga and physical workout, or I'm able to do my meditation, or I'm able to focus on my nutrition and my eating habits, whether I'm able to even eat on time. It could be many things for many people. Just offering those opportunities through various experiences or just time or respecting that time for individuals is well-being for me.
Thank you, Nupur. Thank you. I think this is a great thought to begin with. And, yesterday in one of the tracks, we heard about almost 60%, specifically in India, people have focused as primary reason for them to switch on job. That depends on, how organizations are going to take care of personal well-being beyond just the work that they do. Which means whatever Nupur just, called out, able to take out time beyond work to take care of emotional, physical and mental well-being, which goes back to my next question, Simran, to you. it takes a village to build a culture. And if we're talking about well-being as the single most top priorities for the HR heads today, what will be that one change that organizations must make in their culture to address this challenge?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And I think just building on to what Nupur said that well-being is not just about you being in one space, which is an organization, or being in your personal space. It is holistic, and it means different things for different people. When we talk about organization culture, I think resilience is something that has really resurfaced when we are talking in worldwide scenario. What is even heartening is at this point of time, we've started that conversation around mental well-being along with organization resilience. And I think that's a very, very positive thing that has happened in the entire organization framework worldwide. Uh, I would also like to comment that resilience can be spoken in various contexts, and one context is how resilient an organization is, and supplementing how resistant a person is in their personal capacity, and both of them cannot work in silos. In order to build organization resilience, I think we will need to build on people resilience as well, because it is the people who impact processes, who impact anything that happens within any organization. If that link is not there, I think organizations are talking about a sense of purpose in people, building a sense of purpose. That's just not there if you're not building that personal resilience in each and every person. The one thing that Shilpa that you spoke about, where organizations need to build a culture, is develop a culture wherein employees are open to taking risk without the fear of failure, right? It is only an employee who tries to do new things will fail. As an organization, if you are building a culture wherein every failure is looked down upon, or there is a reprimand for an employee, I don't think so either the employee or the organization can thrive and grow in today's scenario. So risk-taking, I think, capacity for an organization, and plus learning out of failure, that is the culture that we need to build as an organization. How we learn through our mistakes, right? How we nurture, how we communicate our mistakes. As an organization, we are brilliant in communicating, this is what we did, this was our achievement, we achieved this numbers, our margin was this much. Brilliant. I think we are all, organizations are there for profitability. But I think it's time wherein organizations, even if they are talking about it in their closed circuit employee groups, talk about failures, what they tried, did not achieve, but how they learned and rebound after that. I think that becomes very important as learning for any organization and goes a long way in culture building.
Thank you, and well said, Simran. Now, when we talk about culture, the interesting part, is if the culture is not set right, strategy eats culture for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, with that thought, we heard about, failing fast is one of the key skill for us to imbibe in the organization. But what about beyond that? And Pankaj, with that, my next question is, how can leaders support employees in nurturing their own resilience at and beyond the work? So what are your thoughts around this?
Okay, thank you. And thank you for getting me invited here for People Matters. You know, before I say something about this topic, what can leaders do? From a context setting point of view, I work in a company called American Tower, and it is the telecom infrastructure, it's in that space. So we are the ones who possibly work with the mobile network operators like an Airtel, Vodafone, Geo, etc. And we enable connectivity. So this program like this, we could possibly be at the backbone, connecting this, beaming this, etc. So with that context, we have about, and I'll say what we have done at our company, which might, be more relevant. We have about 2,000 people, and we have about 10,000 other people who work through our support system. So first and foremost, what we have done, and we try to do more of it, and I'm sure all your companies would also do that, is get a sense of commitment or a sense of purpose for the employee. So if the person believes that what he or she is doing is actually helping the larger good. For instance, what our people were doing would help, and it started in the COVID time. We kept the world connected. We helped the country in a way. So with that background, we found that they were much more resilient and open to bounce back in times of stress. Be it floods, be it COVID, our teams were carrying jerry cans on their shoulders and feeling proud about the fact that they could keep a tower network running despite the COVID or despite a flood or any other natural disaster. And they felt proud about it. So we call them our warriors, our ATC warriors. So that kind of commitment to a sense of purpose really helped us. And I think that's what leaders can do. To my next point is authentic communication, talking to them, making sure that what they are able to do, most of us would be remote right now. If I were to ask how many people would want to go to work daily, I don't think there'll be many show of hands. So, if I were to ask how many people would go on a hybrid mode, there'll be quite a few. So with that in mind, our leadership needs to be authentic and be able to connect with the employees and keep them motivated and therefore learn those skills, as we communicate. The third piece I would say is, with remote working, people are more connected to the workplace. The lines of personal and office are blurred. So we really don't know when a day finishes. The day never finishes. So how can we help them in their personal and in their mental well-being as well as physical well-being? So we do some series like we have something called the ATC Walkathon. So we do 3 things there, and that's regular around the year. One is physical well-being, one is mind over matter, which is about our mental state, and third is about the nutrition. So, and we focus around involving families as well. So with that, if we can do more of it, and our leaders, and I know one of our leaders is here in the audience, he heads our IT captive center. So he himself would actually go and speak to the families, speak to the employees, and they would connect with us. So these are some of the things. And again, last but not the least, I was reading a World Economic Forum report, which talked about that by 2024, 40% of our workforce will need to be reskilled over the next 6 months. I'm sure many of you would have read that. So for that, what does it mean for us? So we as leaders need to, we call something, we learned from our leaders, refresh and renew. So we kind of refresh and renew our talent. What can we do more? I joined in HR, will I retire in HR? Or can I do something else? Then if I move, then my next in line will possibly have more visibility to get to a larger role. So, these are the kind of things we keep talking. And I read another article of Times of India a few days ago, where my dear friend and KPMG Sunit Sinha talked about managers to be coaches. I think mentors are coaches. I think that's where our mindset should go to. And we have given all flexibility. We have empowered our people. In the COVID time, I don't know how many employers had the concept. We had no leave concept. We did not have leaves at all. People, if they were unwell, they were unwell. And we found that people trusted us and they kind of believed in us and they did not misuse it. It's very difficult to kind of, articulate this. But with no leaves, people were free from the way they would work. And we found a higher productivity as well. So these are some of the things which we are doing and I think would help any organization.
Thank you. I think that's a great way to articulate, which is, how can leaders be more authentic, focus on how we're communicating, because sometimes, communication can be a business language to really around language, what people understand on the ground, where, leaders can connect to the ground, the most ground level of associate and understand what's their need when it comes to resilience. Now, from your end, Pankaj, somewhere you alluded around the hybrid workforce. Now, as per SHRM global study, almost 69% of Fortune 500 large organizations across the globe are moving towards some fashion of hybrid, whether it's 3-day work week, whether it's completely remote, or it's a 2-day work week, or it's a 4-day work week. Only 13% of the global companies have said that they will go back to the normal of 5-day work week. Now, with that, how does organizations really evolve towards bringing that balance towards the resilience that we're talking about. And, Shilpa, my next question is, how can leaders really identify what's the unique motivator in such scenario that we are in today for each of the employee to build their resilience in the personalized way? Because, earlier it was a kitty of offerings that you were doing, but with multi-generation workforce coming in, there's always a need of personalization that we need to bring in. And how would you identify that unique motivator for your own people, Shilpa, when it goes back to the organization that you represent?
Sure. That's a wonderful question, Megha, and thanks for addressing that to me. I represent OPPO here, and this question that you posed, I would like to take a lead from what Pankaj said in terms of how leaders in his organization are helping to reach out to people, connect with not only these people, but also to their families. And with that context, and the context that we are all living in today, be it global recession that we are already seeing, the inflation that's happening, the pandemic that we've seen and that still goes on, resilience or mental well-being, physical well-being is talked about much more than it was talked earlier. And like organizations could talk about it and just, walk away, but now is the time we need to really walk that talk. And what are the expectations from leaders of today? Are the expectations only from leaders? I would say no, because leaders are also human beings. Yeah. So like when you board a flight, the air hostess will tell you wear your own oxygen mask first. Similarly, I'd say that leaders have to first take care of themselves, manage their own well-being first. So what is it that will form a resilient team as on date? So some of the features of a resilient team could be, are people holding humility? Are they humble to each other? Do they have that candor? Can they speak up courageously? Can they raise voice? Can they share their opinions, their feedback? Are they courageous enough to bring in ideas to the table? Can they bring in innovation through their ideas? Do they hold empathy for others? Are they compassionate for others? So that these indicators are, good enough to realize whether your team is resilient or no. So how is it that we are doing at OPPO in terms of identifying where people are, where teams are right now is through these parameters. Of course, through, there are surveys that would run, employee engagement surveys like many other organizations which are run yearly, annual, and quarterly as well. Plus, there is a lot of aggressive pulse check calls that happens not only through leaders, but also through HR, of course. And to go beyond, there's a very beautiful well-being model that I want to introduce here, which we are following to the hilt, is a Perma model that was given by Dr. Martin. And I would encourage each one of you to go back and look at it, because it really fits in how we would like to encourage well-being in our organization as on date. And if I were to explain Perma model, basically P stands for your positive emotions. How do you feel today? Are you positive about life around? Are you engaged enough? E is for engagement. Do you get in that flow of work? So as a manager, can I recognize my people? Are they holding those positive emotions about being at work, leading the work that they're doing at organization? Are they really engaged at work? Do they get lost in that work? So how many times you've really experienced it yourself? You're in a certain kind of work and you just feel lost out. You lost time count, right? You're absolutely in the flow of work. And so R stands for your relationship. So what kind of relations do you have with people? Do you have a friend at work? That's an age-old question that was asked in Gallup surveys. So are managers facilitating people to have those relationships at work? As a manager, as a leader, do I have that relationship with my people? Like, as Pankaj pointed out, if leaders are reaching out to the families as well, so that's a real good indicator of what relationship means to these leaders at workplace. And the fourth point would be M, which is meaning. Yeah, so like, again, going back to PANKAJ, do these people see meaning that they, the kind of work that I'm doing, does that hold me any meaning for people out there? And the last but not the least is accomplishment. So whatever work I do I have a sense of accomplishment in this? So I would not elaborate on this model right now due to paucity of time. However, if leaders can really map people by reaching out to them, connecting to them, and understand where my people are in this framework, it is very easy to design interventions which are very personalized for people. We have multiple generations working, multiple people from different geographies, genders working at our workplace, be it remotely in a hybrid model or completely at work, because OPPO also has a big manufacturing setup in India. So I think the key is for a leader to try and establish that connection with people, to create those psychologically safe environment where people can hold up and say, hey, I'm not okay, and it is okay to be not okay. So as leaders, if we can create that, it's an amazing environment, it's an amazing resilience that we build. And I want to emphasize here, resilience would not be like a spring which goes back to its original position, but it actually goes beyond that. So you meet those adversities and you develop coming out of those adversities. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
I wasn't aware of this model, so excellent. Thank you. Thank you for introducing that to us. And I'll surely reach out to you afterwards to know about it more.
Thanks.
Now, yeah, excellent. Now, coming to SHOBHA, now we heard about culture, we heard about what leadership should do. But, a lot of time, we end up trying some things because, a lot of it is also very new to the organization and what we're trying to do, especially just coming out of pandemic. So what do you think would be that one thing that leaders must start doing and one thing that leaders must stop doing to ensure there is growth with the right balance of well-being in the face of change? How do you take care of your own well-being as well?
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful listening to my co-panelists. I think there's a wealth of insight, content. I think we've heard from everybody, and I'm totally taking back lots of stuff. I think all of us will acknowledge that the world we are living in and the workplace that we have today is a new normal. Yeah, and post-COVID, everybody is discovering what it is. And I think today the classical boundaries of organization are broken, right? Home also is part of organization. Workforce is gig plus full-time plus part-time plus whatever models. So the whole dynamic is changing, and I'm sure everybody knows about that. I think in this context, there is a very critical role leadership has to play to really navigate through this change. And I think I have to be really sharp about what is the one thing that leaders must start doing and stop doing. Let me start by saying what is it that they need to start doing. First of all, acknowledge that there is a change and there's a transition to a new normal. And acknowledge that that is taking a toll on well-being of people. And I know we have heard some models here, but if you talk about well-being, it's beyond physical well-being, it's emotional well-being, it's spiritual well-being, it's social well-being, organizational well-being. There are many dimensions of well-being. The leadership must start acknowledging that there is a well-being that needs attention. And this well-being is beyond, counseling sessions or, putting, recreation centers in offices or gyms at workplaces. I think it goes beyond that. And I think the first thing that leadership needs to do is to acknowledge that and talk about it and communicate and not judge people for it. I think one thing that they need to stop is always ask for ROI. To say, okay, I've invested so much in emotional well-being session, or I've allowed for a flexible workplace, I've done a hybrid, I've done, hybrid workplaces, I've allowed for this. Stop asking for ROI because we don't know how it's going to change. But the fulfillment or the completeness of the employees and the satisfaction that you will get, you will see it over a period of time. And sometimes, we invest in well-being programs and say, okay, how much have we saved in absenteeism or medical costs coming down or stuff like that. I think gone are those days. I think it's a journey. We are in a continuum. And one of the things that I picked up as I was reading on this subject before coming here was that the real well-being comes in people beyond all the, emotional, physical, etc. is through actually working for a purpose. The organizational well-being and the social well-being that we talk about comes from people who know that they are working for an organizational purpose and a goal. In fact, if you just think about it, creating a purpose and getting people aligned to it itself is a great tool on well-being. So stop asking for ROIs. We cannot give ROIs, and that is, I think, that puts pressure and makes us do the wrong things. Enough said about that. I think, she also asked me as to what I do about my well-being. So I take care of myself. I'm 50, so I have to take care of my health. So I spend a lot of time doing yoga. And I'm a regular at the gym, so that takes care of my physical well-being. But I invest a lot of time personally on my spiritual well-being. I am part of a Buddhist community. I practice Buddhism, and that gives me hope, positivity. I have a lot of faith, and that sort of drives me every day. And as part of that, I also realize that today the reason for stress is because none of us know how to solve our problems. None of us know what is the way one needs to get out of the pain and the pressure that one is in. And typically, a typical reaction of stress is to put it on somebody else and feel that there is nothing that I need to do. And that causes more stress. And I think that's, if there's a shift that has happened in my life, thanks to the spiritual well-being I spoke about, is to really say that if I want to be happy, it's in my hands. If I want to change my life, I need to change the lens with which I'm looking at things. And if that shift we make, and if all of us sitting here, make that shift, well, it's going to be a happier place. We don't need to do anything else. Everything is going to be positive. And I think, and in the Buddhism that I practice, there's a lot of study material and all of that. But reality is that if the simple thing we understand and stop being a victim and start taking ownership for ourselves and be responsible for our happiness, and if this becomes a way of life in an organization, sky's the limit. And so I think from my personal experience, and I'm in a leadership role in my team, in my organization as well, I think the constant dialogue is around saying, acknowledge it. I don't know if anybody has seen this Billions serial on Hotstar. It's about a fund manager who's a very aggressive person. They employ a performance coach on their workplace. After you do a great deal or after you sort of mess it up in the stock market, you go and actually speak to the person and sort of get, energy and coaching and stuff. I think that's a great, great investment where you acknowledge that we could go wrong at times. You acknowledge that there are failures on a day-to-day basis. How do you overcome it? There's a person sitting there on site, and that too for fund managers who invest billions into stocks and stuff. I think the world is changing, and I think all of us as leaders need to acknowledge that this is a reality. We have to face it. Workplace is different, and we got to find different coping mechanisms. Please don't ask for ROIs. That's my mantra. Thank you.
Excellent. Now, before I move to the next segment, any audience questions? Anything that the audience would want to know? Anyone? Okay. While audience are thinking, let me, start by saying, Tech HR is a platform for so many HR professionals. Thousands and thousands of people wait for this on an annual basis. And, this is not only a physical conference today, but also this session is being, telecasted live over LinkedIn. Now, for all our LinkedIn audience, let me put one fact up there. As per one of the study in the pandemic that was run, 92% of the HR professionals said that they feel burned out. Now, before we as an HR professionals really solve for something for the organization, we need to step back and look ourselves that, why do we feel stressed out, whether it's pandemic or coming out of pandemic, solving for a change that's happening in the organization, in the environment, and to all of the culture and the leadership things that we spoke about. Now, I would move this question to each one of you to say, what is that one personal well-being mantra that you follow, which probably is a tip for our audience as, them as an HR professional and as an individual, that you follow for your own personal well-being. So Pankaj, let me begin that with you.
Well, I don't know where to start because after listening to Shobha, I mean, she's doing everything perfect. But let me admit that, when I was younger, I did motorsports. I did extreme motorsports. But then I became sedentary. And I was very sedentary. And last year when my wife she kept on pushing me. But I didn't do anything. But eventually, I'm picking up a word from you, Shobha, the shift. The shift came from me, from within. And I joined a coach. And I do intense workout now, thrice a week. And I do it online. But I can admit that he's changed my thinking. It's not only physical, it's everything. And yesterday I was here for a while. And I was with my team here. And I had my online class at 6 o'clock. And they were telling me, why don't you stay back? So I said, no, I got to go. And I went and said, for what? I said, I have to go to my coach. So I went there. And so that's something which has really changed me completely. That's one. Then I do some other stuff as well, a few other things. My recent passion is to fly drones. So, so I bought a drone, all legal way. So I'm just kind of figuring out how to fly it, where to fly it. And I have a small passion. I'm building a house in the hills. So it's 90% complete. So when I'm going there next week, I'm taking my team there. We don't have beds, but we're going to rent out mattresses and we're going to sleep there. So I'm going to fly the drone with them there, So these are the few things I do.
Wow, excellent. I'm just wondering, the next time when we meet next year, probably he'll be building a plane. Okay, what about you, Shobha?
So first, I want to check out with him if there's a guest room in the house that you're building.
It's really nice. Trust me, it's very good.
Okay, sure. So I'll wait for your house to get
It's
built
ready.
up.
It's ready. I'll have the furniture in about 15 days.
Yeah.
It's ready. It's in Uttarakhand anytime.
Wow, I could sleep on mattresses. It's okay on the floor. Okay, so my personal mantra for my well-being, I think, and I was born with it, I'd say. My own perseverance, my own positive outlook towards life is the biggest mantra, I'd say. Of course, every one of us has ups and downs in lives, and of course, I'm not getting left out in that. Having a very strong head in terms of it's okay, we are in a problem, it's okay, this will pass. Instead of focusing on problem, I need to be more solution oriented. That's one. Second is, of course, recently meditation is something that's really picking up with everyone, and I wasn't left out either. And on my last birthday, in fact, I gifted myself a Vipassana retreat. And I'm continuing to meditate, which really helps me balance out, really focus on what I need, what I want, and how I should proceed towards it. It also has increased my efficiency, I'd say, at work, managing relationships, be it at work and at home as well. Yeah.
Wow, meditation and, I heard about a lot of things around, especially on the mental well-being, so love it. What about you?
I think I'm in total awe of all of you, who do so much on taking care of yourself. I think for me, I'm a very in-the-moment person, right? I've been there, done that, I've done meditation, moved on. I've done yoga, moved on. I've got a personal coach, moved on. So, I think what keeps me driving is, I keep shifting on what I want to do next, right? What change I can bring within my life. It is a fast-paced world. We experience a lot of change in our personal lives as well as organizations that we work for. Every day is a new challenge. There's one thing that I specifically do after I've completed something. I sit back, I reflect. I do think what could I have done better, not in a probably negative or, pounding myself way, but more in a positive way on what I can do next. Uh, and that's what keeps me going. Having a beautiful family, kids to go back, I think that itself is very calming to my mind. So yeah, I don't know what I will move next, but I just moved from uh, yoga and a coach, and now I go for regular walks, and that is that me time that I have. I don't know how long that will last, though. So,
Wow, trying new things. So that's something that I'm taking back. Nupur, I know you from long back and we have worked together. And I have always find you that Zen person who's calm, composed. But how do you manage your personal well-being?
Okay. Actually, thanks for referring to that. I was just about to comment on that. So I'll talk about it in two pieces, one professionally and the second one is personally. So picking up from that Zen piece, actually earlier at work, I used to think whatever is going in your personal life or if you're not well, you push yourself to be the best at work. Even if you are sick, even if you're unwell, you manage it to work. You manage your emotions. You still put your best foot forward. I've stopped doing that. If you're not fine, I will not push myself as much at work. It's okay to say I'm not okay. I'm not in the state to do work. And I don't expect my team also to do that. I think we acknowledge that and we take well-being days off. We call it as well-being days, wellness days, and we take that time off. So I've stopped doing that, so you won't see me that Zen person anymore at work. Especially that's a change, and that has happened with me over the last 3 years, and that has helped actually. And that's also driving the right culture in my team, and that's what people appreciate and stay for. On personal level, I like to travel. That gives me that Zen thing that sometimes I crave for. Travel brings that, evolves me, brings that calmness in me. And I personally have a goal of traveling at least 50 countries before I turn 50. So very close to that. So yeah, that
How
is
many
what
have you traveled already?
I've done 40.
40?
yeah.
Wow. Anybody can beat 40?
I'm done. I'm done.
Shobha already spoke. Shobha, any closing remarks that we can have from you?
No, all I can say is that I think this was a unconference setting. I mean, we were all completely out of our comfort zone to see this kind of a setting to speak. But I think that's just a sign of things to come. And it was very interesting to hear different perspectives of how different things can be construed as well-being for different people. There's no set model. There's no set practice. And I think that's fascinating because that's really the sign of things to come. Everything is getting questioned. Every boundary is getting broken. Every norm is getting changed. And I think that's the way we have to go forward. But personally, for me, this was a very stepping out of comfort zone kind of a setting because I would have imagined a panel discussion with a formal seating. But yeah, maybe that's really how we need to cope with things. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed myself.
Thank you.